CBS News senior White House correspondent Weijia Jiang joins me now from the White House. A big day in reaction from the president on what the Supreme Court decided, but also some interesting developments late in the afternoon about what may or may not be happening in terms of U.S. interactions or negotiations with Iran. Weijia, take your pick. Go whatever order you prefer.
Well, Major, I'll pick up where you just left off with the ruling about transgender athletes. The president is viewing this as a success for him and the administration. He posted on social media that this was a big win. He said the U.S. Supreme Court just ruled against men playing in women's sports. Of course, the nuance there is important because it's not as though there is a federal ban on these athletes participating, but it does allow, as you've been talking about, each state to make that decision. Still, the president views this as a victory. He also is quite happy about the ruling with regard to campaign finance limits, in part because that will likely help Republicans, especially in the midterm elections, more than the Democrats right now, at least, because they have more money stored up in the coffers that the parties will now be able to use for all those political ads that we love so much that before they had limits on. However, there is that big loss for President Trump when it comes to birthright citizenship. And he is now calling on members of Congress to try to change the law. And some Republicans have been quick to respond to say they should take up this effort. And there have been attempts already to try to end birthright citizenship. But now a few Republicans are renewing that call and say they will introduce new legislation. But, you know, we all remember when the president went to the Supreme Court to listen to those arguments, which tells you how important this was to him. As for Iran, I'm going to make a hard pivot to foreign policy, Major, since you asked about it. And what's interesting is the talks that are happening in Doha are not exactly as advertised. The White House was very excited yesterday, including the president, to talk about these conversations happening between Steve Witkoff and the president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, with Iranian officials to talk about, how to end this war. But today we heard from the Qatari mediators who say the meetings are actually with those middlemen, and there are no high-level talks, even on the books, between the U.S. and Iran, because first they have to work through the memorandum of understanding, Major. And we also know that technical talks are also ongoing. But in terms of any big developments, we are not tracking any right now, even though the president's team is in the region and talking to mediators. It's not exactly the same as them talking to the Iranians yet.
Hard pivots, never, ever, ever problematic for Weijia Jiang. Weijia, as always, thank you very much.